Hello again. Thank you for joining. Tonight, we're going to talk about the goddess of love, beauty, fertility, war, and foresight into the future. I'm speaking of Freyja. So I've actually updated my altar since I last filmed it. I kind of stocked up on mead there. Maybe I went a little too crazy. Maybe not. I don't know. These are the ones that I made myself. This one's the mixed berry. This one is actually Honeycrisp apple, and I have another batch of that brewing as we speak. I got this box from a metaphysical shop. Not quite sure what to put in there. Right now I just have some herbs and spices that I'll be putting into this mixing bowl, which I also got from said store. This is actually from my wife's family, and I just felt it. I just felt an urge to put it up there. Owl looking out for us down here. So then we have these little statues here. These are the three gods that I work with the most: Freyja, Odin, and Thor. And they're the ones who really responded to my prayers the most out of all. I mean, I'm still, granted, obviously I'm still new, and that's the whole point of this, but those were my main go-tos, and they still are, but I am branching out to other gods as well, especially winter being very, very much here now. I'm going to start working with Scavi, which I will get into in another video. And this is the offering bowl I've been using. I do have Irish background, so I like that design, and as we may or may not know, the Celtic and Viking artwork was very, very similar in their knotwork and things of that nature. So without further ado, we can get started on our prayer. I also got a little incense holder, shape of a Viking boat. So I'll let up some incense, and we'll go from there.
Solen upprann, innan fåglarna började sjunga. Bergatrollet friade till fagerunger Sven. Hon hade en falskeliger tunga. Hermannelig, tro loven i mig, för det jag bjuder så gärna. I kunden väl svara endast ja eller nej, om i viljen eller ej. Heder vill jag giva de gångare 12 som gå ut i rosende lunde. Aldrig har det varit någon sadel upp på den.
All right, so now that I've added incense to my altar, what I'm going to do, I'm going to let it burn. It's going right above Freyja. And I'm going to keep the offering bowl in front of her. When the incense has finished burning, I will pour the offering bowl, return it back to nature, and then I'll extinguish the candle. So while our incense is burning, a couple things about Freyja. When I first started my journey on this path of Norse paganism, Freyja was one of the first gods that I seriously sat down and tried to connect with, for many, many reasons. But when I was reading into Norse paganism, the gods, something just kind of drew me to her, almost like a mother figure type of a thing. So one night I meditated, and quick thing about me, I have two very small children, and I went outside while the youngest was sleeping. She's a baby, and I had the baby monitor with me. I started meditating. I just got into a deep meditative state and just called out her name, Freyja, over and over again. And then I just kind of let my mind go blank and let my mind wander to see what would happen. Honestly, nothing much happened. It was one of my first times attempting this, so not really surprised by that, I guess. But anyway, so on the baby monitor, I could hear my daughter starting to fuss and cry. So I said, "All right, Freyja, I'm sorry I have to cut this short. I'll try again, and if you heard me so far, I would greatly appreciate a sign of some sort." Okay, so another thing about Freyja, she's very in tune with cats. Thor actually gifted her 2 cats. They were kittens when he found them. They were making some noise, and he just thought, oh, this would be great for Freyja to have. And as they grew older and bigger, they grew huge, by the way, she eventually had them carry her around in her chariot, almost like 2 horses, except they're cats, which is interesting. And cats, therefore, became a very, very important part of Norse culture. There were several instances where cats were given to the bride as gifts, as a symbol of love. After all, Freyja is the goddess of love, fertility, and she was also the goddess of war, strength, and protection. But love is what people most associate her with. So after my failed attempt at connecting with Freyja, I asked her for a sign. And another thing about me, we have 3 cats. The middle cat was obsessed with me when we first got her. We rescued her, and she just loved me. She was just so lovely when she was a kitten, and over the years that kind of dwindled a little bit. And I'd say over the past year or 2, she really, not that she ignored me, but she really just wasn't as into me as she was. Wasn't looking for affection as much, just kind of did her own thing, as, you know, cats usually do. Well, the day after my attempt at connecting with Freyja and I asked her for a sign, for hours at a time, this cat would not leave me alone. I mean, I'd walk from one side of the house to the other, she would follow me. She would always she'd just keep rubbing up against my leg, meowing, trying to climb up my leg. If I was next to a couch or a recliner, she would hop up and try to, she'd put her paws on me, almost like a toddler wanting to be held. And just would not stop meowing. It was crazy. And I stopped at a certain point. I was like, what is going on? Like, why? I'm talking to a cat, by the way. Like, why are you so affectionate all of a sudden? What's going on? What changed? Oh, wait a minute. Let me look into that. So I did some research, and sure enough, Freyja and her cats, it's a thing. So I was just really blown away by that. It was so cool. I was like, wow, I think Freyja actually heard me when I asked her for a sign, and I said, hey, can I get a rain check for this prayer, basically. I think she heard me. I don't really know how else to explain it. I don't know how a cat overnight would just go from being kind of meh to, oh my god, I need attention, all the time. You know, who knows? But there's that story, just throwing it out there. So after that first experience with Freyja, I kept trying to reach out to her, and eventually it kind of manifested in something interesting. Unlike my video with Odin, where it was more like he came to me, with Freyja, I am in a deep meditative state, and out of nowhere, I remember the first time this happened to me, it blew me away, and I've been doing this ever since. I find myself in a deep meditative state, and I find myself traveling. It starts off like I'm on a boat, like an old wooden, Viking ship, basically. And I come to a small shore, and I step off, and I find my way through some wooded area. Long story short, I find myself in an open field with a bunch of stones that are about waist high. And on the other side of that field is someone standing in a hooded cloak. They turn around, and it's Freyja. She is gorgeous. She is just stunning. But again, she's a mother figure. And her presence is just so calming. And I sit down on one of the stones, and she comes up next to me, and she basically just says, "So, what do you want to talk about?" And it can be really anything. It could be about marriage. It could be about my kids. In one of my very vivid encounters with her, she commented on how freaking adorable my kids are. It was actually really cool. Anyway, so sometimes I just sit with her, and there's like a beautiful waterfall off to the side there too, and we just sit together and enjoy it. It's so peaceful, and if anyone out there watching doesn't meditate, and or if they do meditate and they don't do something, like I would highly suggest, like, try to bring yourself to another atmosphere, I guess, another place, like, other than where you are now. So yeah, that's what I've been doing with Freyja, and it's been working out great for me. One of my favorite Norse mythology stories is the fortification of Asgard. So I'm gonna keep this as brief as possible. It's such a great story. I highly recommend that you get the better version of it than I can tell. But basically, the gods of Asgard one day find that Asgard is unprotected. Thor is off to the east fighting trolls, and it dawns on them, we can't just be here without Thor unprotected. He's going to go off and do his thing a lot, and we need to build a wall. And they are thinking about how to do it, and then out of nowhere, this strange dude comes out, and he says, "Hey, I heard you guys want a wall. I can do that for you, and I can have it done in 3 seasons." And the gods will say, "Okay, great. What do you want for it?" "Oh, I'm not much. I want all I want is I want the sun, and I want the moon for myself, and I want Freyja's hand in marriage." Hard no. That is just ridiculous to ask for that. So the gods are ready to reject his offer, but Loki actually steps in and says, wait a minute. It is almost impossible for one man to build a wall in 3 seasons. Not the kind of wall that we want. So, you know what? Screw it. Let's take him up on his offer. And Freyja, if it was a movie, pan over to Freyja, her lips are curled and she's just staring daggers at him. Like, are you freaking kidding me right now? And Loki's like, no, hear me out. Instead, we do offer him the sun and the moon and Freyja, but we tell him that he can only do it in 1 season. So as soon as winter is over, that day, if it's not done, no deal. There's no way that one man can build a wall in 1 season. Not the wall that they want. So Freyja is looking around, and all the gods are nodding their heads, and they're saying, that's a great idea. And Freyja's like, no, you guys are all morons. This is horrible. You're seriously, like, considering me going off with some stranger and marrying him, That's just one example of Freyja being the object of affection. She was the most beautiful of all the goddesses. So therefore, within the entire universe of Norse mythology, she's just cream of the crop. She's a hottie. And there's another story where a giant is desperately after her. Anyways, another time. So the guy starts building the wall. He agrees to the terms, only 1 season. And they say, oh, by the way, you can't have any help other than your horse, because the guy needs his horse. He's not strong enough to drag all the stones by himself. They say, fine, yeah, it's just you and your horse, So the days go on, and Freyja's watching this all go down. This dude is like just stacking these stones like it's nobody's business. He's building this wall. It is going great. And Freyja is just, you guys, you have really screwed this up. Like to all the other gods, like, how could you possibly agree to this? Like, you're about to just push me off like I'm nothing and make me marry this random dude. So the day before the deadline, all the guy has to do is build the gate. And that's like no big deal. So Freyja says, you know what? I blame all of you, but Loki, I want your head for this. If I'm going to be dragged off and marry this guy, I want you dead, and I'm going to take your head as a trophy. And the other gods are like, you know what, man? Yeah, like you got us into this. You talked us into it. Talked us into this, and so you got to get us out, and you got to get Freyja out. So that just it shows how important of a figure Freyja was. So Loki decides to transform himself into a beautiful mare, and he distracts this guy's horse that's been helping him, and he successfully leads the horse away. Now the guy is like, well, I don't have a horse and I got to build this gate. I don't think I can do it. Sure enough, he's trying to drag these huge stones by himself, and he can't. The deadline comes, and he goes before the gods, and the gods are all like kind of like real snug and say, well, sorry, man, but this is what we agreed upon. We're here at the deadline, and you didn't make it. Sorry. And oh yeah, by the way, we know who you are. We know that you are a giant, Jotun. And if we had known that you would deceive us like this, if we had known that you were a Jotun and not just a regular man, we would have never agreed to these terms. And the guy's skin turns all gray. He transforms into his true self, which is a Jotun. And he is ready to start swinging. So suddenly there's a rumble of thunder, and all the gods are standing there smirking, and they all move to the side, and who's standing there but Thor? Thor looks at him and says, greetings, Jotun. Pulls out his trusty Mjolnir and cracks that mother effer's skull right in. So, crisis averted. Freyja did not have to marry this dude, this giant, and all was well in Asgard. So again, that's one of my favorite stories, but it's such a great Freyja story because she is like, you know, standing up for herself and like questioning the other gods, and it actually kind of shows what the Vikings, how the Vikings felt about women and their role in society. So incense is burned out. I took the offering bowl, went outside, held it up to the sky, said, Freyja, I hope you enjoyed your offering. I now return it back to nature. I rinse the bowl out, place it back in front of her, and last but not least, and it's out. So that was our offering to Freyja. Freyja is such an interesting character. There's not a lot known about her, but yet there's so much known about her. On top of being the goddess of love, as I talked about, and goddess of war, and it was actually believed that the reason she is a goddess of war is because she may or may not have been the queen of the Valkyries. The Valkyries being the ones who choose the bravest of those who have fallen in battle. Now, another note to that, it is a common misconception that all of the Vikings went to Valhalla. That's not the case. Valhalla was reserved for those who died in battle, specifically those who died bravely in battle. The bravest souls were chosen, but another note to that, Freyja actually had her first pick of the dead. She took half of them to her hall, and her hall was equally gorgeous. It was in a beautiful, beautiful field, and then Odin took the second half to Valhalla. And I'll get into a whole other thing about Valhalla in a different video, but so that one I definitely find interesting. So that pretty much sums it up for this episode. Freyja is a very, very interesting character, and I only just scratched the surface. There's so much more to Freyja and how to pray to her and how to try to connect with her. But for now, gave her a good offering and told some stories about her, and yeah, I just hope she heard me tonight, and I have a feeling she did. And on that note, thank you for watching, and remember, ek gang that I, thaim skom ek valda. Thank you.